We begin with developing news from the Middle East, where Israel is preparing for what it says will be a new phase of its conflict with Hezbollah. Israeli tanks and troops are massing on the country's northern border with Lebanon in a possible precursor to a ground invasion.
Hezbollah's acting leader says the group is ready for a potential incursion, revealing its commanders killed in recent Israeli strikes have already been replaced. Straight to ABC correspondent Kathryn Diss on the ground in Jerusalem.
Israel's been warning of a possible ground invasion for several days now, but since taking out Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, it's really ramped up its rhetoric around it. It clearly believes that it has the upper hand over its enemy and it's willing to do whatever it takes to hit it whilst it's still down. Defence Minister Yoav Gallant was again touring the north of the country with soldiers, where he told them that Israel was prepared to do whatever was necessary to return its citizens to the north of the country and to also eliminate Hezbollah.
We'll do what needs to be done. Our aim is to return residents of northern Israel to their homes. To return the residents of the north to their homes, we will be ready to make every effort. This is your mission. This is the IDF mission. And that's what we'll do. We'll activate everything it takes. Your forces, other forces, from the air, the sea and the ground.
Several American news outlets are reporting that Israel has told US officials that it is planning a limited ground invasion into Lebanon and that could be imminent. We believe from these reports that incursion will target military infrastructure and militant infrastructure along the border, with the aim of removing that threat from communities in the north of Israel. We've also heard from senior Hezbollah leadership today in their first speech since the death of their leader, vowing to continue fighting Israel, warning that the fight could be long and that it was prepared for whatever Israel was planning.
We will face any possible attack and are ready. If the Israelis decide to enter by land, the resistance forces are ready for a ground engagement. We have prepared and got ready, and with our trust in God Almighty, we are confident that the Israeli enemy will not achieve its goals, and we will emerge victorious from this battle.
We've also been waiting to hear how Iran will respond, given that Nasrallah was such a powerful ally for it in the region. We heard from its foreign ministry today, which said that it hasn't responded yet, not because it's afraid, but because it does not want war. But it did say that what it describes as Israeli criminal acts will not go unpunished. The death of Hezbollah leader Nasrallah has really pushed this conflict to a new level and has seen it escalate to the point where there is a real threat that this could turn into an all-out regional war. But with the US warning Iran that it will step in if its citizens are targeted, could well bring it back from the brink just yet.
That's Kathryn Diss reporting there. Well, police are investigating the alleged use of Hezbollah flags during rallies in Melbourne and Sydney at the weekend. Reporter Miles Holbrook-Walk joins us now from Sydney. Miles, tell us more about the police investigation.
Well, Bridget, this investigation deals with incidents across both Melbourne and Sydney, as you note right off the top there. It was part of a national day of action calling for a ceasefire and peace in both Lebanon and Gaza, and thousands of people right across the country attended. Now, what we have had confirmed overnight is that New South Wales police say they've seized 2 Hezbollah flags and are investigating whether or not there was potential offending in regards to breaching Commonwealth offences around carrying symbols or chants of a terrorist organisation. Now, because Hezbollah is registered by Australia, or listed, I should say, as a terrorist organisation, the potential use of a flag could be a breach of Commonwealth legislation. Now, there's also a separate investigation going on in Melbourne where there were 6 reports made to police. The Australian Federal Police have confirmed yesterday regarding the potential use of either chants, symbols or flags. Now, those investigations are ongoing and will require not only using vision that people have taken on their phones from the rallies, but also from media outlets documenting people in attendance. And it is believed that it was a minority in attendance that displayed these flags, but nonetheless the investigation is a wide-ranging one. Bridget?
And Miles, what's been the reaction from politicians, from community groups as well?
So I've seen politicians widely condemn this action. The Premier of Victoria, Jacinta Allen, saying that she wanted to see a strong response from law enforcement agencies as well as from the federal opposition and the federal government. Already the Islamic Council of Victoria says it discourages people taking Hezbollah flags or other terrorist symbols to any of these rallies, while the Executive Council of Australian Jewry has also said it found the display an incredibly concerning one. Now, from rally organisers in Sydney, we've also seen a statement issued. This was issued from the Palestine Action Group not a long time ago, and Joshua Lee's telling the ABC in a statement, this scaremongering about some flags is designed to distract from Israel's crimes and to intimidate Israel's critics into silence. So a fairly different tone there, and at the end they've said that they'll continue to have mass protests in Sydney. They say that more than 30,000 people attended this rally over the weekend. Now, it is worth noting, Bridget, that the federal government says it doesn't want to see division stoked within the country and has appointed envoys to combat both anti-Semitism in July, and then last night Prime Minister Anthony Albanese confirming Haftab Malik will be the envoy to combat Islamophobia in the country as well.
Miles, thanks a lot. Well, Qatar Airways has secured a deal to buy a 25% stake in Virgin Australia, and Emma has some more on this deal for us here.
Thanks, Bridget. Well, that's broken this morning. So the agreement with the Australian Airlines owner, Bain Capital, still requires approval from the Foreign Investment Review Board before it can go ahead. Qatar Airways was last year blocked by the Albanese government from a request to fly additional services into Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Perth. New figures show Australia's average house price is still rising, but at a slower pace. CoreLogic data reveals national house prices rose 0.4% in September, which is up by 6.7% over the year. The national median house value is now more than $807,000. Melbourne, Canberra and Hobart recorded declines in the past 3 months, while Perth values increased by 4.7% over that same period.
It seems that there are more sellers than buyers in the market, with buyers really being dissuaded by high interest rates, unaffordable housing and a high cost of living.
Dating apps will have to take action against dangerous users and escalate complaints to police under a new code aimed to make online dating safer for users. The voluntary Australia-wide industry code begins today and could become mandatory after 2 years. It comes after a study found 3/4 of people who had used dating apps over a 5-year period had been subjected to sexual violence.
If this code does not deliver the safety benefits that we expect for Australians, then the government will have no hesitation in imposing direct regulation on this sector.
Emergency workers in the United States are racing to try to find hundreds of people who are still missing days after Hurricane Helene ripped through the country's southeast. More than 100 people in 6 states are already confirmed dead, while the storm has caused catastrophic flooding and left millions without power.
This will be certainly one of the more damaging and costly systems that we've had in recent memory. And certainly when it comes to the loss of life, which is very devastating, unfortunately, this will rank as pretty high as well.
Well, getting to the top of Mount Everest was always going to be an uphill battle, get it? But new research shows the world's tallest peak is getting even higher. Scientists say erosion in nearby rivers has pushed the summit up by as much as 50 metres over the past 89,000 years. That's up 0.5 millimetre a year, making the difficult trek just that little bit harder.